I've been thinking for a while about how to make a vegetarian carbonara. So, the classic carbonara is an excellent dish, but sometimes you just don't want to eat the meat in it for, either health or environmental reasons. And I was struggling to come up with an idea for a good replacement, because I was thinking that you need to somehow replace the guanciale fat with some kind of fat from vegetables, which is difficult to get. And the way that I've got around this in this recipe is to use courgettes and to cure the courgettes, so you get an interesting kind of funky flavours from the courgettes. It's almost like pickling the courgettes, and then you also have the pepper on the courgettes as well. So this makes it very similar to how pancetta or guanciale is made, but using courgettes instead of bacon. The way of replacing the fat that you would have from the guanciale is to first saute the pickled courgettes in olive oil, and then this gives you a really flavourful olive oil which you can then use in the carbonara, and it turns out this is very delicious. So the way that I made the courgettes was I just added salt to them. My original plan was to measure the mass of the courgettes and then add a certain percentage of that in salt, but turns out that the kind of 6% salt or whatever that you'd use in, say, something like sauerkraut just wasn't enough to cover the courgettes, so I just added a lot of salt to the courgettes. And then I put that in the fridge for a while, for about 8 hours or so, and then after that I took it out of the fridge and covered it in a lot of black pepper and a small amount of smoked paprika. So the idea with this is to kind of replicate how they make guanciale. So there's a video by Alex, the French guy cooking, as he used to be called, where he goes to somewhere in Italy and they show how they make guanciale. So I just saw what they were doing and then replaced the pork with a courgette, and I also didn't leave it for as long, only sort of letting it cure for a week or so, rather than however many months it takes to make guanciale. If I was doing this again, I think I would pickle the courgettes in brine rather than just salting them and then hoping that they would release a lot of water, because they didn't release as much liquid as I was expecting them to. So then doing that, I would, just add a lot of pepper, maybe even some garlic or something to the brine, and then you could leave it in your fridge for a while, because, pickles last a long time, whereas with this, you kind of have the surface of the courgette that's exposed to the air, so you might get stuff growing on the surface of the courgette, which is not ideal. So they only lasted, a week or so, but in brine they could last a lot longer. So I think I'll maybe explore that in a future video. After putting the pepper and paprika mixture on the courgettes, I left them in the fridge for a couple of days to cure. in order to make the carbonara, start by chopping up the courgettes. So making these into kind of courgette lardons, and then going to saute these in olive oil. If I was using guanciale or pancetta or bacon or whatever, this step would be replaced by rendering out the fat. So both of these, the idea is you get some flavorful oil that you can then mix in the egg mixture. So you're kind of making a sort of hollandaise sauce by mixing the eggs and the fat from the in this case the olive oil or the guanciale fat, and then you also have the fat from the cheese that gets mixed in as well. So once those are sauteing, then mix the egg mixture together. So here I'm just using egg yolks. I think if you add egg whites as well, so using the whole eggs or some ratio, then the sauce gets a bit watery for me, but some people prefer it with egg whites. Also, you're not wasting the egg whites potentially. I'll tend to use about 1.5 eggs per person and then round up. So if it's one person, I'd use 2 egg yolks, and then for 2 people maybe you can get away with just using 3 egg yolks. And then adding a large amount of parmesan or pecorino romano to the mixture. So you want enough so that it's really quite thick when it's mixed together. After that, I'll start cooking the pasta. And then when waiting for that to happen, I'll add a little bit of the oil to the eggs, quite carefully not to scramble the eggs. So when I was doing it when I was filming it, I sort of moved the egg mixture to one side of the bowl. And then once the pasta's cooked, I'll add the pasta to the pan with the courgettes or the guanciale, and then the water on the outside of the spaghetti should deglaze the pan a little bit so you get some more flavour there. And then once that's done, I'll move the pasta from the pan into the bowl, and then mixing sort of constantly when you add the pasta, so to get the pasta nicely coated in the egg mixture. Then once that's done, transfer it to a plate or a bowl, and then season with pepper and add some pecorino romano or parmesan at the end. This is a really excellent carbonara, and it has kind of those kind of funky flavors that you get when you use good guanciale. I think it's probably not quite as nice as, the real deal with nice guanciale, but it's better than anything other than that, in my opinion. You get, really nice egg mixture with the infused olive oil, good peppery flavor, slightly, like I said, funky notes from the cured courgettes, and it's really excellent. And it's much closer to an authentic carbonara than I thought you'd be able to get without using meat. So I would recommend trying it out.